Hello, everybody. My name is Śliwa, and I would like to tell you a bit about Ireland. Why Ireland? Because it's a place on earth that I love very much. I fell in love in this country when I was 12, 13, something like this. I've got a CD with Irish music, Irish traditional music, and then I started to dream that one day I will go to Ireland and I go around this island. I didn't manage to do this on one tour, on one trip, but I managed to visit this country several times. And about my experiences from Ireland, I would like to tell you. And on the very end, I would like to tell you also about Northern Ireland, the part of Ireland. I know that it's a bit difficult and a bit strange, but Island of Ireland is not the same as Ireland. The part that is in the United Kingdom. And I'm fascinated with this part of the Isle. And at the very end, I will tell you a bit about this part. Of course, like every other people who go to Ireland, at the very beginning, I came to Dublin. Dublin is a capital, not very big city. About 500,000 people live there. There are no it's not very much. It doesn't have many monuments, very spectacular monuments, but it has wonderful atmosphere, super atmosphere that is connected with beer, with music, and with playing and with parties everywhere on the streets. But also there are some monuments, of course, like Cathedral of St. Patrick, the holy patron of Ireland, like, for example, the buildings of Parliament, and the castle. The castle is it's a very problematic monument for Irish people, because for many years, for hundreds of years, it was a place where the British governor had a seat. So for Ireland, for Irish people, it's a symbol of British rules of the slavery and being dependent on British. But there is one place and one fact about this castle that it may be interesting for you. Do you know Dracula? Dracula, the vampire, came from Transylvania. So what it can have connected with Ireland, with Dublin? Bram Stoker, the man who wrote a book about the Dracula, he was a clerk and he worked on Dublin Castle. I like Romania very much. I like going there, and I like going to Transylvania. I went there several times. So when I saw this label, I was really excited that I found some connections between the countries I like so much. And this is one of my best place in Dublin. It's St. Adam church, the ruin of the church. It's from it's the place from the medieval ages. Very few of such places we have still in Dublin. And you can go underground there, and there's an underground museum with parts of elements of architecture, of a piece of art from the medieval, and it's completely free. So you can go from the street, see everything, and go then on Dublin streets again. And of course, Dublin has also the new face. It's in old docks on the places where then ships came. It's River Liffey, and then there's a sea. There's a seaside, and now it's a new city center with offices, with blocks of offices, and with media center. And if we talk about Ireland and Dublin, we have to talk about drinks. Drinks like beer and whiskey. There is a famous brewery in Dublin. It's Guinness Brewery. It's on the bank of the River Free. I haven't been yet there. I hope one day when I come back to Ireland, I will go to Guinness Brewery, but once when I was in Dublin, I visited the Jameson Distillery, the place where one of the most famous Irish whiskey is made. And of course, you can take a tour on the distillery to see how it is produced. Of course, there's the old bottles with whiskey. Some of them has 100 years. But of course, these are not for tasting. But when you go to the bar, you can taste whatever you want. And for me, the best part of being in Dublin is music. Music and having live music in pubs and bars. And there's one place where you can do this all night long. It's Temple Bar. Temple Bar it's a district, very small, in the city center on the bank of the River Liffey, where you can go to hundreds of bars and pubs. During the day, it's completely calm, no people on the street. There's very silent. But in the evening, people are everywhere. They are sitting in the bars, in pubs. They not only sit, but also stay. They listen to the music. If there is no place inside the bar, they are outside on the tables or directly on the street. They sit on the pavements. They drink their beers. But in Temple Bar, there are mainly tourists. Normal Irish go to other districts and other bars and pubs where they can be in their own with their friends or with people who they know, not only with tourists. Once when I was in Dublin and I was there with my friend, I lived with her in a small town near Dublin. It was Bray. We went to the local pub, and the atmosphere was super. There was a live music. In one hall there was a traditional Irish music, and another there was a group that plays some covers from 80s and 90s. And people were so lively. They were play, they sing, they dance, and it was so authentic that I loved it really, really much. From Dublin, because Dublin it was a beginning and the end of almost all my journeys to Ireland, but I went to the northwest, because my longest journey through the island was to the west coast. I started on Achill Island. It's on the north coast, and it's connected with the mainland with bridge. So you can go there by bus. And there, for the first time, I saw what is the Irish weather. When I came there, when I came from the bus, the wind was so heavy that I couldn't stood. When I tried to pitch my tent, the tent was blowed, and if there was a man on the campsite, if he didn't help me, I think I wouldn't have place to sleep this night. In the morning, some rain, also very strong wind, but okay, it's island, it's wet, and there can be rainy, so I came for a walk. And the views were wonderful. The Achill Island has wonderful cliffs. They are like 100 meters. It's one of the highest cliffs in Europe. But unfortunately, because of the heavy wind, I couldn't go on there. because there was a risk of blowing down to the ocean. Achill Island is also known in Ireland because of their beaches. They are very small, mainly in the bays, and for me, the water was too cold. But I saw some Irish people who went swimming because it was quite normal for them. And one of my biggest aim, the biggest target of this journey, was Kirkpatrick. Kirkpatrick is the mountain on the west coast. It's the holy mountain of Irishmen, because it is believed that St. Patrick, the bishop who came to Ireland and brought Christianity to their people, had a mass there or on this hill. And now there's a chapel of St. Patrick, and every year almost 30,000 people are going one day in the middle of July in pilgrimage to take part in the mass in this chapel. The mountain is not very high. It's like 750 meters. Like in Poland, like Beskid Niski or Beskid Mały. Really not very high, but it's very steepy, and also there's a gravel on the trail. So when you go, the stones go down from your foot. So it can be very tough and very hard to go up, but it's worth it, because from the top you can see wonderful views. Oh, here you have this steepy road with stones. You have a wonderful views for the Clew Bay. Clew Bay with many little isles, and when it's the outflow, the isles are bigger, and when it's inflow, the isles are smaller. And here also Irish weather was with me. So when I was down, it was sunny. When I started go up, suddenly it started raining. There was a fog, and when I was on the top, I started to regret that I didn't take a cap or gloves, because it was so cold. But it was really worth it. There from Murisk, that is down the Kirkpatrick, I tried to hitchhike to Waterford. No one wanted to take me, but there was one car that stopped, and they were Polish, of course. No Irish people wanted to take a hitchhike. During the whole my journey, it was more than 2 weeks. I tried to hitchhike several times, but only people who I managed to hitchhike were Polish, no Irish people. And from there, I went to Galway. Galway is the biggest city of the west coast of Ireland, and this is the capital of party. Everybody in Ireland knows that if you want to have fun, to have the greatest pubs, the greatest bars, you have to go to Galway. And even people from England, from Scotland come there for the weekend. They come on Friday evening, Friday afternoon, and going back on Sunday in the middle of the day. And for 2 days, 1 day and 2 nights, they have fun in the bars and pubs. Galway has a lot of water in the city, because it's the town on the River Corrib It's the shortest river in Ireland. It has only 20 kilometers, and it's very, very fast. So the salmons live there, and when it's the season, many fishermen, people who want fishing, come to the city and stood on such platforms to catch some salmons. And of course there are canals, and it's like a little Venice, but in very, very different, very different mood. And Galway is a place where music is everywhere. The music is on the streets, the music is in bars, the music is in pubs, clubs. Wherever you go, you hear the music. Not only traditional Irish music, but also some covers, some blues, jazz. It's everywhere. And also in summer, in July, the beginning of August, there's a the greatest Irish culture festival in Galway. And you have also theaters on the streets, people who dance, who perform. Of course, there are some events, many events, that you have to pay for. You have to go to the concerts or concert halls or theaters, but much of it is on the streets, and it's really, really good. And one other very, very important for Irish people is that in Galway there's a little district in the old town, like it's called Claddagh, and the Jews lived there since 17th century. And there's a legend: if you want to get married, you have to go to Claddagh, bought a ring there, so then your marriage will be long and very lucky. And of course, Galway, I had to go to the pub and try their beer, because they have their own beer in Galway. It's called Hooker. Galway is also a place where you can go from to Aran Islands. Aran Islands, it's very strange islands. I was only on the one of the archipelago, on Inishmore. Inishmore, those islands looks like stone, like tables, like big stone tables. Like you take a big stone and hit it with hammer, and it's divided into two pieces. And it's like Irish shore on one side, with famous cliffs of Moher, and on the other side there are Arans. There are only about 100 people who live on this island, and they live there all year long, during from November, December, January, February. Sometimes the stormy weather is so bad that they cannot go to the mainland, because the ferries don't go, and also there's no possibility of going, for example, on a helicopter or any other transport. So they have to go. They have to be on place when the weather is bad. Aran Islands are such strange things that 270 days a year you have a rain there. But I have luck, and I didn't have rain on Aran Island. So it was really, 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 I was really, really lucky. As you see, there's almost no houses there, very few. Oh, it's of course for tourists, and the main handmade that is made on Aran are sweaters, pullovers, and gloves and caps made of wool, and everything is handmade, no machines, no fabrics, and they are really expensive. and they are sold only for tourists. And this is how Aran's Inishmore looks. Only stones and very, very poor grass. The island is flat with cliffs on the side of island, of mainland. And there are 3 prehistoric forts on this island. The scientists don't know who lived in them, why they were built, and what happened to the people who lived in them. Now it's only a ruins. And of course the tourist attraction. On Aran's, you cannot go by your own car because it's very expensive. You have to pay a very high tax to do this. You can go by ferry, on foot, or by bike. And when you are on Inishmore, you can take a minibus to go around the island to have a trip. Of course, it stood on several places. You can go for a walk, for example. You have 1 hour to visit the fort, and then you are going back to the minibus and goes go to another place. And it's if you have only a few hours to visit whole island, because the sleeping places there are very expensive. If you have only a few hours, it's the best choice to visit most important places on the island. And of course, there are some houses like this. It's especially for tourists. People who live on Aran's, they still use Gaelic. This is the real Irish language. It's completely ununderstandable for anyone who talks in any other European languages. It's really strange for your ear, for hearing it, but they talk in it, and I heard many people from this isle, especially in shop, in restaurant, or the drivers. They talk each other with Gaelic, and this is one of the most important places on Inishmore. This is seven churches. The ruins of old monastery. There were seven chapels and churches, so now they are ruined and can be visited by tourists. And some people who lived on Inishmore, they fish. They went fishing, and it's the fishing nets that are dried on the wind. I have a good luck on Aran Island, but when I came back to Galway and went to Connemara to have some hike, unfortunately the weather wasn't as good. It was awful. The rain was very heavy, and also the wind. I visited some places that I could without being wet all the time. But one day, I saw that maybe it will be better. Maybe the weather will be good, and I will go to hike a bit. I lived in this hostel, very close to the mountains, but very far from any other town or village. I went where the weather wasn't as bad. Oh yes. But then it started to be awful. But unfortunately, I was nearly on the top. The mountain was like 500 meters, 530, and really, it was one of my worst day in the mountains I ever had. I go to the mountains. I hike from 20 years or something like this, and I I have never had such awful day in the mountains like this. I was wet. I had everything was wet. Everything what I have on me. It was windy and there was a fog, and I could only see about 10 meters, 15 meters. And it was really, I had really luck that I managed to go down from this hill on the right place. And when I went down and checked the news, I heard that it was the worst weather breakout that ever happened for 150 years. And it was also a day when this famous pilgrimage on Crach Patrick take place. And it was also written that this pilgrimage, first time for more than 500 years, it was cancelled because of the weather. And then I started to think maybe I have also a luck, because if it happens once for 500 years, so why not? Okay. And the last part of my journey to the west coast of Ireland, it was Killarney National Park. The center of the park is the little town Killarney. It's the town like from the postcard. Many colorful buildings, little shops, cafes, bars and pubs. And around this town, there are wonderful landscapes with full of lakes and mountains, green mountains. And there are also some forests, what is very uncommon in Ireland, because in Ireland you almost doesn't have, you almost don't have forests. I spent there 4 days going hiking on the hills and mountains. Of course, the weather was like an island. 5 minutes rain, 5 minutes sunny, 5 minutes cold, 5 minutes hot, and round. And I loved their forests. They were like from the fairy tales, but it wasn't so easy to go to this forest, because you could walk on the path, on the trail, but if you wanted to go on a place like this, your foot went down in the mat, so it was not very funny. Killarney was the most beautiful part of my journey to Ireland. Really beautiful landscapes with lakes, and sometimes the wonderful views. And here you have the Irish weather on a photo. 1, 2, 3, 4 rains before me. Here is sunny, and between them very few pauses. And sunny. And those photos were made in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe. In Killarney, I also wanted to visit the Gap of Dunlow. Gap of Dunlow is a place where you have wonderful view on Black Valley. It started from rain, of course. How could be different? And then again, 5 minutes rain, 5 minutes sunny, 5 minutes rain, 5 minutes sunny, and also many ships. Very strange ships with dark black hats. This photo is also made 5 minutes after this, so you can see the Irish weather. Gap of Dunlow is a very fine place for everyone who doesn't want to go to do a real hike, because there's a road on the gap, and you can do it very easy. I spent 4 days in Killarney because I wanted to wait for the better weather. I had a weather forecast, so I know so I knew that it would be better. It is to be better because I wanted to go on the highest peak of island to the Krańcu hill. For us, maybe it's not a very high mountain. It's like 1,000 and a few meters. But there's one very problematic part of the trail. It calls Devil's Ladder, and it's very steepy. And when it's wet, when the stones are wet, it can be dangerous. So I decided to wait for better weather. And of course, in the morning, full sun, no clouds, only blue sky. After an hour, of course, there was a rain. How could be different? It's island. And on the top, of course, fog, 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 and fog again. But in another 5 minutes, as you see, again, sun views. And here you have the Devil's Ladder. And those stones are really, really dangerous when they are wet. Okay, and for the very, very end of this presentation, I would like to take you to different country. We are on the same island, but I will take you to Northern Ireland, to the part of United Kingdom and Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And I will take you mainly to Belfast, the capital of Northern Ireland. When I studied here in Lublin, I started to write my graduated work about the Northern Ireland conflict. And I managed to get a scholarship in Belfast on Queen's University, and went there on Irish studies, on summer school of Irish studies, mainly about conflict in Northern Ireland. Why there is a conflict? Because from the 17th century, there are 2 groups that have completely different aims. One, the Irish people, who at the beginning of 20th century wanted to be joined to the Republic of Ireland. And the second group are the ascendants of the settlers from Scotland, Ireland, Britain, and they want to be connected with United Kingdom. So there is a conflict, and from 1960s till 1990s, there was a real civic war. And it was finished. It was ended in 1998 by Good Friday Agreement on the 10th of April 1998. And now the Northern Ireland is developing very, very fast, but not everything is going so good as they expected, because there are still those 2 groups that have their history, they live with this history, and almost everybody there have someone who was killed. It doesn't matter. One of them was killed by Republicans, paramilitary, another for loyalist or unionist paramilitary group. So they have still a conflict. This is a symbol of Belfast. It's the lifts of the old shipyards. Now the shipyard is closed, and on the place of the shipyard and docks, there are new city center with offices, and with one of the best attraction of Belfast, the Titanic Belfast Center, because the Titanic was built in Belfast shipyard, and from Belfast she went for its first and last journey to America. And of course, the docks and the city center is like normal city. You can walk there everywhere. You don't feel like you are in a place where the war was only 20 years ago. But I would like to show you one place in the very, very, very city center that is a symbol of this conflict. It's not beautiful. It's even not nice. It's Europa Hotel, the biggest hotel in Belfast. It was bombed 23 times during the conflict, during the troubles. IRA, the Republican paramilitaries, blew it 23 times during the conflict. It was only to show that they can. It was mainly the very small attack that didn't kill anybody, but it was, look, we can do this again. But when you go to other districts like Falls, only Republicans live there, you can see the tropes of the war. It's murals. The men who are on it, they are mainly the members of IRA, or the politics who, for example, fought in Easter Uprising in 1916. The murals are one of the best known part of Belfast tradition and history and culture. And now even you can take a trip with members of paramilitary group and they show you where the murals are. And of course on this district you can see Irish flags everywhere. But then you will go to the Peace Wall. It's a gate. There are several gates like this between the district where Republicans and Unionists live. And when there are some riots, some troubles, they are closed. The police come, close those gates, and the people are still divided. And when you go on the other side, you can see Union Jacks and British symbols. This place and this are like 200 meters, 300 meters, and this is completely different world. And of course, the commemorations of Unionist victims of troubles. And nowadays, many of those murals are changed into something like something more pacific, more peaceful. They tell about the unification. They tell about the solidarity, the peace, how peace is good for Ireland. But in most royalist or most Republican districts, there are still murals with violence, with a lot of hate towards another group. But luckily, Northern Ireland is not only the conflict, it also has some wonderful places, and one of the my best like and also most beautiful is the Giant Causeway. Giant Causeway is the name came from legend. There were two giants. One of them lived in Northern Ireland, and another one lived in Scotland. And they started to build a causeway to meet each other on the sea. But unfortunately, they didn't manage to finish it. So we have a giant causeway. Of course, it's the volcanic stones, volcanic rocks, basalt, and it looks like this. A beautiful part of the Northern Ireland shore. And if you have some time, from here it's only 5 kilometers to little town Bushmills. And if in Ireland you can drink Jameson whiskey, in Northern Ireland the best known is Bushmills. And you can also visit this distillery, you can take a tour, and of course taste this whiskey. And bought some in the shop. Okay, so let's stop here. It was my journey through the island of green, the island of green hills, but the island of green mountains, the island of wonderful shores and cliffs, but also the island of wonderful people, wonderful atmosphere, the island of music, and the island of beer. Thank you very much.